This is the OPPO Find X6 Pro, the latest smartphone in OPPO's Find X series. The Find X series has been making waves in the smartphone market for years due to its innovative design and impressive features, including its performance, stylish appearance, and most importantly, its camera system. In this video, we'll be taking a closer look at the OPPO Find X6 Pro series and exploring what makes it stand out from the competition. So let's find out now. Beginning with the unboxing experience, right off the bat, we get the phone itself with a beautiful matte black finish to it. I'll talk about its design later in the video. We also get some literature, a SIM ejector, a default case that matches the colors of the phone, a 100-watt charger with its Type-A to Type-C charging cable, and that's pretty much it. We know that OPPO has always placed a strong emphasis on camera technology, and the Find X6 Pro is no exception, especially when you look at the Hasselblad logo. Since the camera system is what gets the most attention, let's start with its camera module and image quality to see how it performs against other flagships. Beginning with the camera specs, the Find X6 Pro features a triple camera setup on the back that includes a 50-megapixel wide camera with optical image stabilization and a 1-inch sensor inside, a 50-megapixel ultra-wide camera with OIS and macro capabilities, as well as a 50-megapixel periscope telephoto lens with OIS as well. Yes, you heard me right, all three cameras on the back are 50 megapixels, and they all have autofocus and optical image stabilization. Honestly, that's some crazy hardware stacked on top of each other. In the front, we have a 32-megapixel selfie camera that supports autofocus, but no OIS, which is a little unfortunate. So with this kind of insane camera hardware, how does the Find X6 Pro perform in the real world? Let's find out. Starting with the main wide camera in daytime environments, while both phones produce great images, they each have their own unique advantages. Looking at this comparison, in terms of clarity, both phones produce very sharp images, especially when we zoom in the center. However, when we take a closer look at the corner sharpness, it's clear that the X6 Pro is sharper since we can still read what's on the menu in the corner. Other than sharpness, when we look at these two images as a whole, it's clear that the iPhone looks more natural with a better sense of color reproduction and contrast, while the X6 Pro just looks kind of washed out with noticeably less contrast to the image. However, sometimes the X6 Pro less contrast approach actually works great. Taking a look at this comparison, while the iPhone looks over-sharpened, the X6 Pro looks very natural, so it kind of depends on what environment and what subject you're shooting. As for the dynamic range, it looks like the X6 Pro takes the crown. Looking at these two images, while both interior shots look great, the X6 Pro is able to retain more highlight information. Taking a closer look at the corners, while the window and the back of the man's neck are completely blown out on the iPhone, the X6 Pro still manages to retain that highlight information, which is kind of awesome. At the same time, the OPPO is also capable of preserving more texture details in a photo. In this comparison, it's clear that we can see more texture details from the X6 Pro, which is great. One thing to note here, since the X6 Pro has a large 1-inch sensor inside, you'll get more background blur, since you have a shallower depth of field, and this is why not everything in your shot will be in focus, so keep that in mind. Moving to the ultra-wide camera during daytime conditions, let's talk about their macro capabilities. Taking a look at this comparison, it's clear that the X6 Pro looks more vibrant than the iPhone. When we zoom in at the corners, we see that the X6 Pro has more dynamic range than the iPhone as well. One downside is that the X6 Pro does tweak the colors a bit to make the image look better. So if you care a lot about colors resembling the natural world, then the iPhone would be a better choice. Looking at another macro shot comparison, it seems like the X6 Pro looks sharper with more contrast in the image, while the iPhone looks kind of washed out. One advantage of the iPhone would be a closer minimum focusing distance, so you can get closer macro shots with the iPhone in comparison to the X6 Pro. In terms of ultra-wide photos, the phones produce photos with similar sharpness. However, when we zoom all the way in, we can see the X6 Pro retaining more detail and textures than the iPhone. Now let's talk about the X6 Pro's periscope telephoto lens. Looking at this comparison, we see that the results are pretty similar to the main camera and the ultra-wide camera. First of all, you can see more texture details on our cat, especially when you zoom in on the fur, and the colors look more vivid. At the same time, when we take a look outside the window, it can be seen that the X6 Pro has more dynamic range than the iPhone. Taking a look at another set of images, we see that while both phones are equally sharp, the X6 Pro looks much cleaner, while the iPhone looks over-sharpened. In other words, the telephoto camera on the X6 Pro is also a strong competitor for telephoto phone lenses. At the same time, while the telephoto lens on the X6 Pro has a 3x zoom, you can actually get a 6x zoom by cropping in. Since the telephoto lens has 50 megapixels, it's easy to just crop into the sensor and get a longer focal length, which is very handy if you're trying to capture something far away. As for the image quality when using the 6x zoom, I would say it's quite decent, so that could be a fun mode to use as well. Speaking of megapixels, we know that although most Android phones claim to have 50 or 64 megapixels, you actually only get 12 megapixel photos if you don't manually switch to the high-resolution mode. Usually, the high-resolution pixel mode will give you sharper images with less processing done by the phone. However, on the X6 Pro, things are a little bit different. You see, when we compare photos taken with the normal mode and the 50 megapixel mode, we do see a noticeable increase in terms of sharpness, which is great since you can preserve more details in the image. At the same time, you don't get less effects done by the phone when using the 50 megapixel mode. So all the automatic post-processing will still be there when using the 50 megapixel mode. Here are some samples taken with both modes so you can see for yourself. Personally, I'd use the 50 megapixel mode for some important shots, like a particular landscape I want to capture or an important family group shot. Moving on to nighttime photography. Usually, this is where the X6 Pro and Mary Silicon X begin to shine, especially in extreme low light environments. However, things were a little different this time. Beginning with the ultra-wide camera at a dimly lit restaurant, we see that the X6 Pro outdoes the iPhone, since its images have more vivid colors, better sharpness, and an overall cleaner image with less digital noise. As for the main camera, while the iPhone has a sharper image, it does have less dynamic range as well, especially when you look at the corners. As for the telephoto camera, I believe the X6 Pro is better since it just captures more detailed information than the iPhone, although the iPhone still has a better sense of white balance. Moving to extreme nighttime photography, this is where things get interesting. Looking at this extreme nighttime comparison, the iPhone looks noticeably better than the X6 Pro, and I was quite shocked when I saw these results. Honestly, the X6 Pro looks kind of scary. It not only has an incorrect white balance, but the entire image also looks very dirty. However, when we zoom in and take a closer look, the X6 Pro is still sharper than the iPhone, and it only took 2 seconds to expose, while the iPhone took 10 seconds to expose. But while the X6 Pro is indeed sharper, the colors and the mood of this image just make it less desirable than the iPhone. Overall, I would say the camera system on the X6 Pro is great and has all the best hardware available. However, OPPO still needs to work on its colors to make it look good. I mean, nobody wants their nighttime photos looking like a scene from a scary movie, right? Other than its camera design, one of the standout features of the Find X6 Pro is its sleek and modern design. As we can see, the Find X6 Pro has a beautiful matte black finish to it, giving the whole phone a more formal business vibe. The back is made from vegan leather, giving it a premium feel when holding it. Also, the vegan leather makes the phone less slippery and fingerprint resistant, which is something I like a lot. At the back, we see the gigantic camera module, which is also distinctive, with a glossy black finish that adds a touch of elegance to the device. I feel like it's even bigger than the Vivo X90 Pro. I guess this kind of big circular camera module trend is going to last maybe a year or two. In terms of protrusion, the camera module sticks out quite a bit, so you can put your index finger right under the camera module to better hold the phone one-handed. While the matte black finish looks great, I think the other brown color looks the best on the Find X6 Pro, since it not only has a beautiful dual tone finish, but when you look closely at the camera ring, it feels like a manual focus ring. Also, the red dot underneath makes it look like a camera mount as well. Unfortunately, we only get the matte black color at this moment. On the side, you'll also get the iconic green marking on the lock button. As for the front, we have a beautiful screen with a front-facing selfie camera in the middle. Finally, after all these years, OPPO has finally decided to put the selfie camera in the middle to create a perfect symmetry. Also, the Find X6 Pro includes an advanced IP68 rating, making it water-resistant and dust-proof. So if you're someone who may be exposed to extreme weather conditions, such as when taking beautiful landscape shots using this phone, then this will be very useful. Speaking of the display, the Find X6 Pro comes with a beautiful 6.82-inch AMOLED display with LTPO 3.0 technology, a 120Hz refresh rate, as well as 10-bit color depth. It has 510 pixels per inch, meaning text and images will be crispy sharp on this display. At the same time, it has a typical brightness of 800 nits when you're indoors, 1500 nits when you're outdoors, and a whopping peak brightness of 2500 nits when viewing HDR videos. In other words, you can always see your display clearly, no matter how bright your environment is, unless you plan to use it right next to the sun, which I don't recommend. As for LTPO 3.0 technology, this basically means the phone can change its refresh rate from 1 Hz to 120 Hz. As a result, the phone will drop its refresh rate to as low as 1 Hz when you're viewing something static to save battery, and boost its refresh rate all the way to 120 Hz to give you a smoother user experience when scrolling. Overall, I would say the Find X6 Pro has one of the best displays on the market. Under the hood, the Find X6 Pro is powered by Qualcomm's Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 chipset, which is the standard chipset on most Android flagships this year. The phone also comes with 12 to 16 GB of RAM, as well as a maximum of 512 GB of ROM, making it capable of handling multiple apps and games simultaneously without any lag. Speaking of games, since it has one of the most powerful mobile chipsets, graphic-intense games such as Genshin Impact won't be a huge problem on this phone, so you can enjoy the gaming experience just fine. However, your hand will definitely touch the camera module when playing games, so make sure to clean it before taking photos. Because of the powerful chipset, the battery also needs to keep up, and the Find X6 Pro does have a pretty impressive battery performance. The Find X6 Pro comes with a 5000 mAh battery that supports 100-watt SuperVOOC fast charging. This means that users can charge their phone to full capacity in just 28 minutes with this charging technology. At the same time, the Find X6 Pro also supports 50-watt wireless fast charging, as well as a 10-watt reverse charging. The Find X6 Pro runs on Android 13 with OPPO's ColorOS 13 user interface, which is smooth and easy to navigate. If you have an OPPO phone or have used ColorOS before, then everything should be quite familiar. We still get facial unlock and fingerprint sensors under the display, just like before. Overall, the OPPO Find X6 Pro offers a range of impressive features that make it stand out from the competition. The phone is well designed with sleek and modern looks that feel premium in the hands, especially the dual-tone finish. Most importantly, the camera technology is top-notch, with all three cameras having the highest 50 megapixels and optical image stabilization. The performance of the Find X6 Pro is also impressive, with the latest Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 and ample storage space and RAM that allow for smooth multitasking and gaming. Battery life is also excellent, with fast charging and wireless charging capabilities that ensure users can always have the phone charged on the go. Overall, I think the OPPO Find X6 Pro is a fantastic phone with some of the best phone hardware on the market. If you like the design and care a lot about phones' camera systems, then the Find X6 Pro will not let you down. Well, that's all we have for you today. What do you think of the OPPO Find X6 Pro? Let us know in the comments down below. For tech and gadgets, we got you covered, and see you next time.